Hello, I'm Michel Gagné, and you are listening to the Real-Time Visual Effects Podcast, where wizards reside.
You have a gift. You have a passion for creation. There's something inside you that wants to express itself, and that something has led you to explore the world of visual effects, a place where magic happens, and the only limitation is your imagination. All the greatest artists in the world started somewhere, learning and growing into the people they are today. You being here is the first step to building your legacy as an artist. Learn from the best and brightest in the real-time visual effects community. Sharpen your skills and be your best self.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 25 of the Real-Time Visual Effects Podcast. Today's interview is with Nikola Damjanov, and I'm going to be calling him Johnny. That's his nickname. He is so awesome. I found out about him through a referral on Twitter because somebody wanted to hear about what it means to work in the mobile game space. So without further ado, let's dive in.
Here is your host, Travis McCallum.
What's up, everybody? Today, I've got Nikola Damjanov, who is a lead game artist at Nordeus. His past work includes games like Top 11, Heroic, and Sportster. Johnny, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing great, man. It's actually now it's actually sunny Saturday. It used to be very rainy half an hour ago, but now it's wonderful weather. So my spirits are also up.
That's awesome. Where are you based out of?
I'm based in Belgrade, Serbia. I don't know how many of you know where that is. It's like Balkan, like Europe, Balkan, then Serbia, then Belgrade. That's where my current GPS location is.
I'm glad the weather is good over there. It's getting cold here in Texas. I can feel the temperature drop as we move from summer to fall and winter eventually. So pray we can keep it in the 70s for now. So man, I want to jump into these cool projects that you're doing at Nordeus, along with some of the past games that you've worked on. I want to start by asking, how did you get started in visual effects?
I don't know. I might call it an accident, but it was not really an accident. Here's the thing. Like back in the day, a couple of years back, we had this whole thing about starting new games in Nordeus. Keep in mind that back then we had only our flagship product, which is Top 11, and that is a football manager game. That game does not have that many VFX. It doesn't need that many, almost any VFX. And then when we started doing new games, we started realizing that we need new art sub-departments. We need people with different skill sets. Since one of the games that we started back then was then called Spellfalls and now Heroic, like a very kind of fantasy magic heavy game, we realized that we need to make a lot of VFX for it to work. What we actually did is that since we couldn't hire anyone, it was difficult either to find actual VFX artists back then, and then with a specialty niches like mobile VFX artists who want to come to Belgrade to work on, we decided to kind of homegrown our own. So a couple of us, usually people who were rather kind of generalistic in their previous art experience, decided to kind of roll our sleeves and start learning how to do real-time VFX for games. So it was kind of a necessity and a desire at the same time, backed up by this new project that was just kind of arriving in the studio. And that was kind of my, let's call them humble beginnings.
Now that you've jumped into visual effects, and specifically in the real-time space, how would you describe real-time visual effects to somebody, whether it be another game developer or somebody just off the street who's like, what do you do?
Yeah, I do. I like to say people that like magic, like I'm a magician. It sounds kind of a bit overconfident, but I think it's kind of nails, it kind of hits the spot because it literally is magic, especially for my kind of work. I am actually making magic for heroes in the games. It's actually it is magic in VFX like that. And it's also kind of figuratively as well, because we are in a way magicians trying to do tricks. We're trying to kind of misdirect people attention and direct them in some specific way by providing correct feedback for the game. And we're also trying to fool the entire audience by the level of optimizations and trickery that we do to make something run good and look good as well on the mobile. So yeah, so our artisan technical magicians. That's what we do.
That's so cool. You've been working in games for a while now, and especially in the visual effects space for, a couple years under your belt. What did you wish you had known when starting out in this field?
One of the biggest things that I really kind of wished that I knew hitting the ground running and starting to do this job is that realizing that this is probably the perfect job position for generalists, and generally for people who don't want to kind of settle or specialize in a very specific thing. Because in my experience, when you're trying to do real-time VFX for games, you really need to know a little bit of everything. You need to know like your modeling, your texturing, your simulating, your animation, your timing. You need to know your game engines. You need to know your technology. You need to know like whole another level of like optimization for the assets that you're making. And since like it's a very, very, very agile and very dynamic field, you need to constantly update your knowledge. When I started like doing this, I thought, okay, like VFX, how is it similar to like movie VFX? Am I going to be the guy who does the fire forever in a studio, which I really didn't like being that. Actually, after doing it, I realized that I can really expand my knowledge and I can really expand my influence on the product as well, which I really, really enjoy.
A lot of times we fail and struggle at things. And I was wondering if you could kind of share a learning experience where you had a challenge and it really impeded your progress. How did you overcome that? And what advice do you have for others?
Look, I've failed so many times in my career. And I think the failure is good as long as you like come out smarter at the end of it. Failure is always an opportunity to learn, nothing else. I know it sounds like it's a cliche, like one of those like motivational posts that you see on LinkedIn. But really, in a proper environment, every failure is like really just another chance for you to learn and grow. And I think that at some point, like definitely at some point in my career, I have failed at anything that you can think of. I have like failed to like hit the quality bar. I have failed to meet deadlines. And even like since I'm a lead artist, I even failed as a leader. I failed like setting my people for success. It happens. Like it's not out of like intent or malice, but like in dynamic environments, things always happen. Every time I handle it basically in the same way. Like I owned my mistake and I asked for help. That's like asking for help is the first thing that you need to do, and asking for help like will solve your problem 99% of the time, in my experience.
Yes, Johnny, that is good. Ownership of your own mistakes.
Yes.
Not being afraid to ask for help. I hear it so often where people, especially artists, are wanting to be these perfectionists who, as they're working through an effect, sometimes takes weeks or months. Their lead is like, hey, how's it going? It's like, I'm not ready to show it yet. When it's ready. And
big mistake.
That's a big mistake. Yeah.
But that's a rookie mistake. And that's so easy to fix. Like, I think we've all been there at some point, especially when you're like having self-doubts or if you're a perfectionist, you're definitely going to keep your like chickens in the hand unless you're like really, really happy to show something to the world. But that's a mistake. Don't do that.
You mentioned that you're working as a lead artist. So you're working with other artists on your team. I'm curious, when you're looking at their work, or even your own work, what are some things you're looking for, especially in visual effects, that you can really tell, this is a really bad effect, or it's good, but we need to make it great?
Over the years, we have advised a completely bulletproof plan for doing exactly that. So whenever we kind of review in the team some VFX, we usually just like kind of watch video screen grabs of it. That's kind of the usual like modus operandi. When we're watching videos, like they're on repeat, and then we start discussing. Every time there's a little bit of pause that people want to think about with the feedback, how that fits the game. If people just randomly start making sound effects for that, that VFX is good. If you see like a VFX that people just start making like, oh yeah, this goes like, that you're hitting the right spots and like that people like it. So that's kind of the first good sign that you're on something like really, really spot on. That's kind of the entry ticket for the world of signing off. I think that like how well the VFX provides the feedback it needs. That's kind of the thing that I'm looking. Everything we make kind of serves the gameplay and the overall like gameplay experience. It has to be, because we are making games. Everything needs to kind of support that. So yes, like color balance is very important. Shape variation is important. Dynamic timing, that's also very important. Does it give the player information the player needs when he needs it? That to me is a crucial thing.
What are some trends that you're seeing out in the industry right now? What's got your curiosity?
It's like this whole switch to real-time production. If you watch how like the whole industry kind of has like changed in the last, 10, 15 years. A lot of technology, I think, came from the movie industry into the games at one point, like high quality rigs, a lot of rendering tech, stuff like that. It just came from the movies into the games. What games did, because like they needed to optimize it to run for games, they kind of really optimized it to run really, really well without kind of losing the quality bar that much, or even improving it in some cases. And now games are kind of giving back to the movies, which is awesome. I think that's a fantastic positive feedback loop. If you just look at, I don't know, like Mandalorian as the recent example, just like using real-time engine tech there's like elevated the production so much, and then also kind of reduced the cost as well. So like that whole kind of transition of the industry towards using more and more real-time tech, it's really what's kind of getting into my curiosity, because at one point we're going to have like artists who can like work on games and movies at the same time, because we'll ideally be using the same tech. And on top of that, just like this whole creep of AI in the industry is like so fascinating to me. Like how AI is changing everything. It's mind blowing. Every day I read and I try to understand some things. Some things I manage to, others still not. It's going to be very, very interesting to be an artist in like 5 or 10 years.
I was thinking about the Mandalorian you were mentioning there. You can literally take live action people and put them into these CGI worlds in Unreal that you can create. And I think that's how they did it, right? And that kind of compositing in real-time engines where there is a dynamic environment with all kinds of effects that people are integrated with. That's super cool. Yeah.
It's incredible. So I think that like that line between movies and games is getting like more blurred and blurred every year. I think it's very soon like movies will be games and games are already kind of movies. So.
And that's why I try and tell other real-time visual effects artists that like what you're doing right now, like it's not going to be games forever. You're going to start applying your skill set to, the commercial industry or, to solve real world problems, maybe someday down the line. You're mentioning with the AI side, and kind of as we move into this VR space as well, healthcare needs visual effects as well.
Absolutely.
Talk to me about, go on.
No, I just to say, like, it's also funny how you mentioned VR and you mentioned healthcare. And I think just recently, like there was the first FDA approved game, right? Like actual game who was approved to be used as a medical treatment, which is like a huge thing as well.
You can't think of the name of that game off the top of your head?
I don't know. If you give me like 30 seconds to Google it, I probably found it. But no, I cannot think. But
that's really
I forgot the name. I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm so sorry. Yes.
Okay, talk to me about what your workflow for creating a new effect looks like from start to finish. How do you approach that?
I mean, like the workflows typically change from asset to asset, but there is kind of, let's say like this common thread that happens. We in Nordeus, we kind of operate in very kind of small, but very kind of cross-functional and like tightly knit teams. So typical workflow in our environment, like for example, making a real-time VFX for the game would be like, okay, I as an artist have a VFX to make. First step is like I need to kind of brief and debrief with the game designers. I need to see what's the purpose of this VFX, what's the desired feedback, what are my kind of, let's say, design limitations of this project. And I also kind of like to pick their brains whether or not they have some like inspirations that they had thought about while designing this and stuff like that. So just kind of giving me a foundation to think on. Then I take that knowledge and then I go to my concept guys. And then back in the day, we used to like concept out a lot more for the VFX. We used to like concept out like, I don't know, maybe between 5 and 6 frames for every VFX. And it was very beneficial because we were all very junior and we kind of needed to actually see the whole kind of evolution of the VFX through its timing. But nowadays we stopped doing that because we realized it was kind of over-engineering for us at one point. So what we usually do now is we just kind of paint one keyframe of the VFX. Usually like the moment the VFX hits or the crucial moment of a transition or something. Just kind of one frame that shows what kind of the color palette is and what is the overall style and the atmosphere of the VFX. And then it's your usual production stuff. I take all that information, take that concept, and I start like modeling because a lot of VFX in mobile games is not done by particles. It's usually done by textures over meshes, just for the sake of optimization. We tend to kind of use meshes and textures way more than particles. So, and when I model things for VFX, I try to be as procedural, as non-destructive as I can, just for the sake of iteration. So I usually kind of build my things either in Houdini completely procedurally or in Max, like using the modifier stack and like some kind of smart splines. Cool thing is like you get a lot of like free UVs if you're doing things with splines. And then it's like if the effects needs it, then it's off like to some simulation stage. Sometimes we use use it, sometimes we don't. Then we kind of bake that into textures or write sheets. And we tend to use for that like the tool which gets the job done the best. So sometimes we use like Rayfire in Mac, sometimes we use Houdini, sometimes we use like Phoenix, sometimes it's just kind of After Effects to bake out some price sheets. Whatever gets the job done the fastest. That's kind of the whole idea. And then we take all those building blocks and we put them in the engine, and then we start animating and kind of building everything in the engine itself. We have a lot of custom shaders that we have built over the years, a lot of like custom tech which helps us a lot. And then we use all of that tech and then we build it inside of the engine. And the cool thing is that we get all the kind of dev support that we need. So they even prepare stuff for us like forehand. So we just need to kind of plug the asset or the prefab into the system, and we can easily kind of test it in game, in context. And that's kind of the cycle, you know. And it's very rarely kind of done in one loop. Of course, like iteration is really kind of important. And then like we repeat either the entire cycle if needed or the sub parts of that entire loop until we get the final result.
Not to break any kind of NDA, but I'm just curious, any of the most recent effects that you've done, I'm just wondering from like a timeline perspective, how long did it take? Like a couple weeks, couple months?
Here's the thing. So like we kind of started to be very fast recently. Like to be fair, our VFX are kind of mobile and a bit more contained. They happen really fast. So like we rarely spend more than like 4 or 5 days on a specific VFX.
Cool, man.
Very, very rarely, yeah.
Talk to me about what a day in the life of Johnny looks like from sunrise to sunset. I see you got a coffee cup, so I'm guessing you drink the mocha.
Oh yeah. I became completely a coffee man when I started working in Nordeus. It's not that I need waking up. It just kind of became a thing. So I think it's more like I don't know. I just like holding a cup and drinking coffee more than I actually need coffee. To be honest, like I think that coffee even sometimes makes me more sleepy than less sleepy, because I can easily drink a coffee at 11 in the evening and then go to bed immediately after that. No problems. I don't know why. I don't know how. And I don't even know if that is good or bad. I'm even also maybe afraid to ask. But
I'd say you're building a tolerance.
Probably, yeah. So how does the day look in my life? Well, I have 2 kids, so like my morning routine is completely catered to them. Like in the morning, I'm a father, so my mornings are like theirs, and like we all like get up, we get ready, and I only become an artist once I kind of drop them off at the kindergarten. That's kind of when I put my kind of artistic hat on. And mornings are usually kind of spent for kind of information sharing in Nordeus. So that's when we have our morning like stand-ups, our morning like meetings, catch-ups, things that like this is the time that we kind of collectively as a team spend to talk what's our plan for the day. Like what do we like kind of what do we want to do today? What's the ideal end goal by the end of the day? And if anybody needs help with anything. Those discussions are kind of really, really fast. And then we kind of go each our separate way. And that's when I kind of try to squeeze in some like time to actually produce some stuff.
Are you guys working on site right now, or are you doing the remote thing?
We're doing the remote thing. But the cool thing is that office is really, very, really close to my house. We are allowed to kind of come to office, but at, I think at like 10% capacity maximum. And we have all these rules that you need to follow about just being safe, you know, like wear a mask, keep your distance, 1 person per office and stuff like that. But since like my entire kind of desk here is set up for work and it's close by, I usually come here even in these days. But our current kind of default state is work from home. And then, like I said, like I try to squeeze in some time to do some actual kind of production work, both to be kind of add value to the product level and to kind of satisfy my own like personal desire to do some art. And then afternoons are usually kind of spent with my kind of lead hat on, where I deal more with kind of tactical decisions, meetings, plannings, trying to kind of solve some higher level problems. And of course, help others with whatever problems they have.
How would you describe your leadership style?
Oh, that's a very good question, man. I'm not sure. I don't know. My leadership style currently is ever changing because I haven't been a leader for that long, couple of years now. Luckily, I'm a leader to people who I know for a very long time. They're like also friends as well as my reports. So it's kind of easy for me to lead them. I would say that my leadership style is honesty. first. Like I'm really honest about feedback, about career progression, about what we need to do. Sometimes I maybe even like too honest, but I like giving people all the information that I need because that will make them way better decisions. So honesty and transparency, that's kind of where I base my leadership. And also to kind of trying to push people in the direction where I need to be pushed in, but without hand holding. I will give them space to do the things they want to do, but I will also kind of pull them back if they go somewhere where they shouldn't go. I will always support them as well in whatever they need.
That's cool, man.
So more hands off than hands off, I would say.
Yeah, open door policy. Just you're there if they need.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we're usually in the same office, so like there are no doors, but yeah. And I try to be casual. I don't know. Maybe I kind of try to keep that relationship even more personal than some people would like. I try to be kind of more friend first and then like a lead. I would like to believe that I'm succeeding because it makes all the conversations, even the difficult ones, way easier because there are no guards. There's no like whenever we have things to discuss, we start discussing with gloves off, and of course with no grudges afterwards. Nice.
What time do you normally stop working, and do you go back into dad mode? Is that what happens?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Afternoons are my that's when I go. Like my usual work hours are like 9 to 5 plus minus 1 hour. We in Nordeus we spend a lot of effort trying to kind of find that perfect work-life balance because we think it's important, and we're lucky enough that we can like as an independent company that we can support that. Like we don't need to crunch. We are our own bosses, and whenever we start planning stuff, we plan it ourselves, and then they're like all the deadlines are like the ones that we decide, not that somebody else has like pushed on us. Of course, like shit happens. Sometimes you need to kind of crunch a little bit, but that rarely happens. So I usually like end my work at completely normal work hours at around 5, and then of course I'm back into dead mode. I try to kind of go completely work offline in the afternoon, just to kind of focus on the family and spend like quality family time because you technically don't have that much time. I end work at 5, 5:30. Like the young one goes to bed at 8, so that's like 2-3 hours that you can spend in the afternoon with the kids. It's not that much, so I kind of try to kind of be mindful about that and actually be present while I'm there. To more or less success, I kind of managed to do that, and then like kids go to bed around between 8 and 9. When everybody is asleep, then that's when my kind of personal art challenge becomes because I spend a lot of time on personal work and personal self-development. I kind of realize that I don't have that much art talent, but I can grind a lot. So I spend a lot of night shift hours doing a lot of personal work, and I quite enjoy it to be honest.
For your personal work, is that more like you set a schedule and it's consistent, or is it when I feel like it, when I'm motivated or inspired?
Both. I try to build a schedule. I think that schedule is going to give you something that you can kind of stick to, and it will push you because it's hard to probably find not so much motivation, but maybe more energy at the end of the day because you are exhausted about like it's the end of the day. It's like 10, 11 in the evening. So schedule sometimes helps me kind of to actually kind of, okay, let's at least start doing something and then see how it goes. So I try to build a personal schedule. And then I try to kind of mix things up. Sometimes I take some projects for myself, which are kind of very long term that last like month or 2 or 3 months. And then sometimes I very kind of consciously just want to make something really, really quick, just to kind of get some like to test out something, to try it out, to get like something fast out, just to kind of have this like a very quick gratification of finishing something. And then I try to kind of see what works best when.
I like that you mentioned just start. And I think that's really powerful. A lot of people, they want to do these things. Nike says it best, just do it. If you even just take your pen or open your program and, start drawing that first line, that's the ignition switch that's going to take that 5 minutes into that hour-long, art session that you need to get that fulfillment. But it's the getting started part that people seem to struggle with the most.
I couldn't agree more because it happened to me so many times. That's why I really enjoy those short projects sometimes because I know that I don't need to put a lot of effort to actually get to a certain point where I'm happy with what I'm doing. So those shorter projects are the ones which actually kind of get me to start easier, but the longer ones have a way bigger like kind of payoff down the line. It's kind of it's more kind of marathon than a sprint. So that's why I kind of try try to kind of mix them both. And one of the things which I also do, which I'm not sure it's even a good thing or not, I have like all the time around like 10 work in progress projects, at least 10.
Jeez.
And it's a lot. And like God knows how much I haven't even finished and like completely disregarded. What is cool about that, if you got bored by project number 1, you can try project number 2 or 3. So you have this choice of maybe doing something else, which might be like more motivating at that point. But it is a kind of double-edged sword because you can easily run into a situation which I have run a couple of times where you just start so many projects and don't finish any of them. So be careful about this tip. It works for me sometimes, but it can be really, really tricky if you don't finish anything anytime.
I definitely agree that having more than one project available to work on is super important. Maybe not like 10 or 20, but if you can keep it, relatively scalable, like 2 to like 5. And the reason I say that is because if you are really, really stuck on one project and your mind is just racking, trying to figure out some technical or artistic thing, take a break, take a week off, and then you can come back to it renewed with a fresh set of eyes where you can, really kind of see the problems that you're running into back then.
Absolutely. Be smarter than me. That's always a good tip.
So you've been working at Nordeus for over 8 years, Johnny.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about the company, a little bit about the culture and the people and just the pipeline and how it works?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I can talk about Nordeus for ages, so feel free to stop me at some point. So here's the thing: I came to Nordeus, like I said, 8 years ago. I was employee, let's say number 32, if my memory is good. Now we have 180 people, so we have grown a lot. When I came to the company, right now we have more floors in our new building than we had offices when I joined. So I have seen so many changes, especially on cultural level. And changes, I believe that change is good as long as it's not detrimental, and it's not. When new people come, when technologies come, when products switch, changes do happen. But what is cool about Nordeus is that every day I'm kind of surprised how much it has kept that small startup company mentality and good pieces of culture with it. So I think it's a perfect mix between that kind of level approach, a small startup company where you have people where I can just kind of meet my CEO at every corner of the offices and just kind of bug him about everything that I want. It's a completely open door policy. I can talk to everyone. I have access to everything, and then everyone is really kind of honest and friendly as well. So we have that kind of small company benefits, but you also have this kind of huge company benefits where you have resources to do whatever you want and to do whatever you need. You can work on world-class projects. You can reach world-class people. You have a lot of things and finance and whatnot, stability to do things that you probably couldn't if you were just kind of small start.
So let me ask this about Nordeus then. Why does it exist? And what is the belief system behind it? Talk to me about the kind of games that you aspire to make. Why other employees believe in its mission?
Okay, so we love to say that we really want to make our players happy, people generally happy. And we are in this kind of mobile market, free-to-play market to be very, very specific. And we try to kind of build games which are kind of fair in that market. So we believe that all our players, everybody has some kind of resource they can spend. That resource can either be time, can be money, or it can be skill. And then we really want to make our games that whether or not you have money, time, or skill, you can be good in our game. So somebody who has a lot of money and somebody who has a lot of time, they can be on par in our game. Or somebody who has a lot of skill in it can also be on par with everybody else. So we try to kind of build very fair and very entertaining games at the same time.
If you don't mind, talk to me a little bit about those games that you've worked on. If
Sure.
you maybe kind of incorporate some of the FX accomplishments that you've done for those games while at Nordeus.
I worked on, I can talk about some of the games I worked on. I can't talk about all the games.
Okay.
Yeah, when I joined the company, it was Top 11. That was kind of the first game that I worked on. And there were not that many VFX in it. There still isn't. It's a football manager game. It has its own needs. Heroic is probably, Spelsos / Heroic is the most VFX heavy heavy game that I worked here in Nordeus.
What's it about?
It's like a card collecting fantasy fighting game. It's similar, maybe like play style is similar to something that like Clash Royale. So you collect your heroes through cards, you upgrade your heroes, and then you have this kind of 3-lane real-time fighting. Like you need to have like both strategy and reflexes as well, because it's real-time. And then you spend your mana pool. You have your deck your cards, and then you like kind of draw your cards, spend your mana, and summon your minions, and then they fight in lanes. So it's both kind of action and strategy, and it's set in this whole, let's say, kind of darkish fantasy style.
Cool. It sounds like fun.
It does, yeah. Try it out. It's really cool. The specific thing about VFX in that game is that VFXs are a big kind of feedback point. Every time you kind of cast a spell or your minion like fires a projectile, that's a very important feedback point. You need to know if you have successfully kind of did your move, and your enemy needs to know like what the hell happened on the battlefield. How can I counter this? So VFXs are kind of be a very big gameplay element of the game. They're not just fluff. They're just not kind of sprinkle on the top. They carry a lot of information inside. Like for example, what is the range of our range unit? We need to somehow convey that through VFX. Or what is the range of a splash damage spell? Like all of those informations are kind of crucial for real time gameplay decisions that you need to make. What do you say? You asked me about biggest accomplishments, right?
Yeah, I was wondering if there was one effect in Heroic that you absolutely loved working, and you hope that anybody who plays the game is going to see that one. Which one is it?
There is this one which never actually got published in the game, but I was so happy with this effect. It's called let me remember it correctly, and I'm so sad that nobody will ever get a chance to see it, because it's one of the biggest things that I really kind of enjoyed making and really kind of felt good about how it looked. It's called a polymorph spell. It was kind of spell that you can cast on any minion, and then it will kind of transfer it into this medieval sword dummy. And so it's an effect that you can cast on high power units and convert them into just a dummy that you can insta kill with one shot. And I made this whole effect that kind of unit swirls down in magic and then swirls up into this dummy on a stick with hay for hands and waving cloth and helmets a little bit crooked. And it had so much charm and so many levels of VFX, but at one point we never published that spell because you couldn't kind of squeeze it into a way that we wanted. It was a bit OP, and the VFX never, a bit more OP, and that VFX never saw the light of day, sadly. But I'm still proud of it. That's also one of the things that you really need to learn as an artist, that sometimes the things that you like the most might never actually be in the game, and that's okay. It took me some time to kind of start living with those kind of things. You need to be ready to kill your babies as an artist, especially when you're working on a game.
And not only the effects that you create for games that are published, but I hear a lot of artists have effects that they make for games that never get published at all. So the games they work on don't go anywhere. That is very sad.
It is very sad, but
it's the reality of the business.
It's the reality of the business, absolutely. Yeah. So many games come out every day, and God knows how many of them don't ever get out.
What about some challenges that you faced in FX creation? Is there an effect that you really, really struggled to make? Maybe it was a technical or artistic choice, or maybe with the designers?
I don't know. There were challenges all the time. There still are. When we were beginning, when I was starting as a VFX artist, probably technical side was more of a challenge, because optimizing everything to work on the level that we needed to work was very difficult. So I had to really dive into level optimizations, how I can do different load levels for VFXs and stuff like that. And then once I got that, let's say, covered, that's when you start kind of realizing what you can or you cannot do, and then what you can push. And then when you start pushing things, then you start challenging the artistic side of things, or maybe even you get into conflicts with designers where you think that something should be done in a completely different way than they think. I cannot remember any kind of very specific asset that was really, really challenging to me. It's more down to how we kind of work things here, because whenever I work with the guys that I work with, we never let any challenge or problem sit there for a long time. When everybody has any problems, we all kind of shout it, how would you guys guys do this? How would you do that? And a lot of things get fixed while we are kind of along the way, because we're always kind of talking in the office, discussing things, problems, showing each other's work.
Do you struggle from analysis paralysis, or have you ever had a teammate who ran into that problem?
Yes. I don't think that I currently do. I believe that I've learned what good enough means. So I kind of learned to let go, both on personal stuff and on stuff for the product. I did have teammates who were doing that, but I think that they're completely out of that box by now, because you all together as a team help them realize that that's not the way to do things.
Can you share some insights with me that you have in the mobile space that makes it so unique to other development platforms like PC or console? I know you touched base on a few things, but can you go in more detail?
I can try. So I don't have experience doing VFX for PC games, to be honest. So I might be a little bit off the tension here, but I think that the mobile is very unique in its very own way for several reasons. First reason is, this also maybe goes for PC as well. Games are now for maybe forever. On mobiles, games are service. They run for a very long time. You update them bi-weekly or at least once a month. So it's I would say a different approach to work. So when you're making assets, we can ship something which is not maybe the best thing ever, because we know we're gonna ship an update in a week, and then we will fix that. That approach to work is somewhat liberating in a sense that I don't need to kind of polish everything right now. I can polish things later, and maybe over the time things will constantly improve. That games as a service is definitely one of the things which is unique for mobile. I think that the challenges are different as well, because you have a mobile, you have a very small screens, you need to convey a lot of information, so you need to focus on different things, and you're also very limited by device performance. I don't know what's the actual technical data, but I think that top mobile devices are maybe on par with consoles around 5, 6, something like that, but that's only the top devices. And then whenever you're making especially free-to-play mobile games, you need to cover the most possible device pool that you can cover, because you want the biggest reach for your audience. So you need to optimize both for the top device, and you also need to optimize for the device, mobile device, which is 5 years old. That comes with a whole different set of trouble. And it also has so many devices, everything's so fragmented. So the technical challenges itself on working on something which is a mobile VFX are, I think, way, way different than working on something which is PC or console, stuff like that.
I imagine when you are working on your effects, you're on a PC, in the engine, but when you're testing your effects, what does that look like?
So we cannot always, ideally, you will be testing on device, because that would be kind of the perfect test that you want to see. But that's not always easy, because sometimes you actually need to kind of build the entire project as an APK file and run it on your mobile device to actually see it in game. There are some let's say workarounds that you can use your device as a add-on monitor on the side, but that's not ideal. What we tend to do is we kind of try to test on the PC itself with some kind of a performance monitor running, just to kind of make sure that it's within the realistic technical challenges for the device. And then we kind of agree what is the optimal mid-level device that we're optimizing for. And then we just do the first pass and test everything on our desktop PCs. And the cool thing is that we kind of set up this automated build system. So whenever we push something into a specific Git branch, the build is automatically kind of kicked off, but there is of course some kind of a delay. It usually takes between half an hour between you actually push something into the actual build and then you get a build on your device. But we tend to at least at the end of the day test everything on the device that we have actually built that day. The whole feedback loop when we work is rather fast. Mm-hmm. So we every half an hour, 2 hours, depending on what you're making of, we have some kind of a thing to look at and give feedback. On these quick iterations, we test on the desktop, and then end of the day, we try to see things on device and then iterate after that.
Yeah, that was kind of what I was thinking is how are artists supposed to optimize for mobile spaces? But I think you kind of answered that.
It's a difficult thing because mobile thing has completely different technical challenges because, for example, overdraw is a huge kill on mobile device. I don't think it's that big of a problem on desktop and consoles, but it's a very big thing on mobile devices. Current mobile devices, they can eat a lot of polygons, no problems. Mm-hmm. But if you give a lot of transparent textures textures over a lot of transparent textures, which usually particle systems are, then you're getting into problems.
I want to shift gears and learn a little bit about you outside of just VFX, Johnny, because I know that you also have an extensive background as a public speaker for a variety of different conferences, as well as being a teacher in a masterclass series. Can you talk to me a little bit about that experience being in the public eye?
Yeah, sure. So I always felt this obligation of giving back to the community because I learned so much from the community. Most of the things that I learned were basically from other people, from other forums, artists, chatting with everybody else. So I always kind of felt that I need to kind of give my contribution and like help others. And as you know, I'm like quite extrovert. I really enjoy talking about anything. So I kind of combined those things together. I started like being very active in the like conferences and talks. I started kind of locally, like doing small talks in, some like design hubs in local universities, like guest lectures. And then once we had some actual products that you can talk about, that escalated on a global scale. I went to like Unite to give a talk, to View Conference a couple of times. And I really enjoyed it because I like sharing the things that I do. And I constantly do. Like if you follow me on Twitter or Instagram, you'll see that I basically share everything that I'm working on all the time. And I try to help however I can while sharing. I even started this whole hashtag Wednesday Share Day with kind of mediocre success, to be honest. That actually kind of I usually kind of share like actual asset that I'm working on every Wednesday. So like this is what I'm working on. Like I spend some time and effort on making this here. It's either like a texture or a model or a VFX or whatnot, and just give it for free to people to use them for whatever they want. That kind of effort has brought me satisfaction on multiple levels. First, it has brought me like satisfaction of like actually giving back. Makes me feel good about helping others. It's a very nice feeling, and it also brought me a lot of value as well. It has like introduced me to a lot of people. A couple of years back, when I was like a junior artist, I thought that you go to conferences to kind of suck in all the knowledge from all the people, and you do when you're junior. But I think that around you, when you get like to some level of knowledge, that you're probably not gonna get that much information from conferences because people rarely share like the best things that they ever know. It's at some point like all the information starts kind of probably repeating itself. And then they realize the much bigger benefit of conferences, and that's networking, like the chance to actually meet the people that you have like either kind of have them as your idols for a very long time, or people who have you as potentially as an idol. And then like even like talking to everybody else on conferences has brought me immense value. That's how I met like people from DreamWorks. Then I went to give a guest lecture in DreamWorks in their own studios. That's how I met a lot of people from View conferences, and then I became like an advisor for the View conference. That's how I met so many people who have learned me so many things. That's how I met people from Substance, and then like now I'm like beta testing a lot of their new tools. So just kind of because I really believe that like success in this industry is it's not like solely based on like talent. It's like luck has very much a lot of things to do with it. Like being in the right place at the right time can like really mean a lot for your career.
I know with the COVID situation, we're not having a lot of physical conferences, but there are online conferences where you can network and meet other like-minded artists. I was wondering if you could just kind of talk about that experience. I know you're involved with at least one this year, right?
Yeah, I gave some talks for IFCC, which is like a creation conference, and now I'm heavily involved with the actual View conference, which is happening next month. It's a new thing for me as well. It's not ideal. Like I prefer personal contact way more than this online thing. But it is what it is. We are all adapting to this whole new reality. It's I don't know. It's strange to me. I really hope that this will end soon, that we can like go back to the things that they were before. We're trying to kind of do at least some sort of a hybrid approach. For example, on the View conference, we're kind of trying to see if we can at least gather all the speakers to come to like physically be in tour in Italy, and then at least we can kind of meet each other, and then we can probably like stream the entire conference from this one place, because it will be way easier and hopefully like better, and then we can have like the audience being online. Like all this does have one very nice thing that as a good, like as a silver lining to this whole situation, is that like okay, yeah, now conferences are online. Like all these cool lectures, like before before you had to actually like travel to Italy and like to see a lecture, I don't know, from Peter Ramsey, who directed the Spider-Man Into Spider-Verse. But now you can like sit in, like safely into your couch in, I don't know, either Argentina or Canada and then like watch and enjoy that same lecture. So it has its benefits, But again, I prefer actually being with those people in person. It just brings me so much more joy and fun.
We'll pray that the live conferences come back soon.
It's very hard to go like to a bar after a talk when everybody's in their own time zone.
Many artists at one point or another have considered leaving their studios and starting their own companies. And you were one. I know you started a company called Fresh Wesh back in 2009. It lasted for about 5 years. Can you share a little bit about the experience of starting your own company?
So here's the thing. So this is how Fresh Wesh happened. This is probably one of the most happiest periods in my life, to be honest. All good things come to an end, this as well. So actually, when I enrolled my university, the first university that I enrolled was electrical engineering. I used to study electrical engineering for a long, long time. And at some point, I just lost interest into it. That's when I kind of switched to the art, because I was doing art as like on my own at home as a hobby. And then midway, even like more a little bit midway down, like electrical engineering, I realized, okay, art is what I want to do for the living. I don't want to do electrical engineering for the living. My family wanted to kind of completely kill me, but fine. I kind of made my life, my decision thing, and I switched to art. And that's when I went to kind of completely new university, start from scratch, and I started like kind of studying interactive media. And over there, I realized that since it was kind of privately held university, that the amount of knowledge that I could kind of get from the university was, to be honest, not so much. So I decided to, okay, I'm not going to waste time here. This is what I want to do. I'm going to invest actually my own time and kind of start organizing like-minded students around like specific idea. That's how actually Fresh Fresh started, like me trying to finding like-minded people at my university at the time. And then we started this whole, let's say, mini company, which wasn't dealing with any commercial products. We were just doing what we wanted to do. And then like trying to kind of find sponsors and people who actually will pay us for us to do whatever we want to do. It was a kind of very like a noble young person idea, like you pay me money to do what I want to do. It worked to an extent. It worked because we had a lot of personal investment and personal interest in the things that we did. So everybody invested a lot of effort. We even invested a lot of like our own money. What we actually did is that we tried to push this kind of mixture of technology and art in any way that we could with our back then very kind of limited knowledge. And it was cool because we experimented a lot. So this was like 2000, let's say 9, 10 when we started doing this. And even back then we were like doing things like augmented reality books, hologram projections on on those like kind of slanted like sheets of plastic and stuff like that. We were doing like a bit of a kind of motion tracking. So we're basically an organization who used to do interactive art installations. But every time we try to kind of squeeze in a little bit more and completely new technology that we ever could. So we did, I think like 5 or 6 exhibitions total, something like that. Each of them one was unique. It was a group of people with very varied skill sets. And I think that it was so fun because we actually did whatever we wanted to do. It was quite liberating. But life happens after finishing the university. It was like a 4-year bachelor degree. Everybody kind of started going their own way. And it just kind of, the whole idea was a very romantic idea, but it just kind of faded away into the reality of earning money for a living. But yeah, it was a fantastic period in my life, to be honest.
Awesome, man. It's really great when you can do whatever you want and kind of pursue these, ideals that come across. I know you are actually a rather big Renaissance man. You've done a lot of things in your life, Johnny. One of the other areas, at least in game design and in VFX, is you've had the opportunity to do a little bit of freelance work here and there. I was wondering if you could tell a little bit about the comparison of freelance versus working in a studio for those artists that were looking at maybe branching out.
Here is my experience. And I think that like as freelance goes, the experience is quite, I would say personal. I think it varies from person to person. I used to freelance for at least, I think, maybe even like 8 years before I joined Nordeus. And it was very much of a roller coaster ride in every sense. Since I was like based I live in Belgrade, Serbia, if you really wanted to freelance 15 years ago, you had an option to either like work with somebody somebody from the States or somebody from like the far east. And then whatever option that you chose, your time schedule was completely inverted. That kind of forced me a lot, for example, to work night shifts, because as a freelancer, I had to kind of oblige by like their rules, and I had to kind of sync with their time schedules. So that kind of completely flipped my life to be more of a night guy than a day guy. I used to kind of work nights and then sleep days, which is fine when you're like 20-something-year-old guy. It's fine. Like you can live with that. I don't think that's very kind of recommended once you hit like past 30. I think that you should probably rebalance your life to be like a normal biorhythm. Cool. It was a nice thing because I had months where I earned a lot of money, and then I had months where I like really struggled. So there was like kind of this also kind of excitement when you earn a lot of money, and this kind of very scary months. So it was a challenge to kind of survive at one point. I was luckily back then I was like still living with my parents, so at least I wouldn't like be homeless if I didn't have anything to work on.
And why do you think there was these moments of feast and famine?
I don't know. My freelance experience was very strange. I never went out to kind of advertise myself. Vast majority of the jobs that I got was kind of very word of mouth. I never actually invested into putting myself out there, like actually go like searching for jobs. I kind of got used to jobs coming to me. And then I was never good at kind of planning ahead or like stacking jobs, which I think you probably, if you can like do that, just so you don't have any empty schedules that then like, it's very bad when you like finish a job and then you start searching for a nice job, because you never know how much time will pass between jobs. And if you can minimize that time, the more you can minimize it, the better. But it was probably one of the planning things that I was very bad at back in the day. Like I said, like I was never like searching for jobs. They came to me, and like there were months where I was lucky. And a lot of people like wanted me to make something, and there were months where we were like, okay, what I'm going to do now? Like what was cool is the variety of the jobs. Like one day you can work on some like architectural visualization. The next job can be some assets for a game. Then you can work on some product visualization. Then you can work on some product design. So that kind of dynamic approach to what you work on was awesome. And then especially like in the months on the good months where you actually have more than one job that you can work on, then you have even the luxury of choosing what you want to work on. Then you like choose the most exciting thing. That was really, really nice. At one point, I just realized it was too chaotic. It was like the instability was not say killing me, but it was like I wanted something more stable. So that's when I opted for a company job. And I think like at that point, it was the best decision ever. I haven't regretted it, not even once.
Now that you have 2 children and you're in your 30s, having stability is very important because you have to think about other people besides yourself now.
Yes.
I know that you've been working on a couple publications, and some have been released, including pieces like 50 Shaders of Forge, prototyping with ShaderForge. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about that experience.
Well, that goes hand in hand with my whole kind of giving back approach and ideology that I have. Whenever I can, I prefer more like talking, but sometimes like some things are way better done if you actually go and then write it down. Over the years, I have like experimented with a bunch of things, and then whenever I hit something which I think is successful, I kind of like to sit down and write it and then share it. The cool thing is that when you start sharing these kind of things, a lot of people then start approaching you about maybe similar things that they have done, and then you meet a lot of like-minded people. To be honest, I haven't written actually something similar in a long time, because I probably switched my approach more to lecturing than actually writing like publications. Maybe I will write something soon. Here's the thing, like I already told you, like I have like 10 different projects which I'm working on at the same time. I think that I can add at least like 5 tutorials that I'm also writing at the same time, and maybe I'll finish some of them soon and write as well.
That's awesome, man. I am definitely an advocate of giving back, but at least in my state, I don't feel qualified to share a lot of my art tutorials or whatnot, because there's so much content out there available, but a lot of it is bad content. You don't want fresh artists coming in and following a tutorial that's giving them bad advice. To you then, a question I have is, how do you filter the good from the bad? How do you know whether it's worth investing in a course, spending dollars to learn, a new software or to learn some new VFX?
Oh, man, that's a good thing. That's a very, very good question and a very difficult thing to answer. I kind of tend to go with my gut, but of course my gut is kind of back to my so far experience that I have. Like we discussed, like I have this whole plan of like self-improvement that I spend every day. One piece of the entire plan is me like once in a while taking an online course. So how I approach approach them is that, first of all, I kind of tend to stick either like online schools which have a good reputation. I don't know, like a CG Masters Academy, for example, or like Learn Squared. Some schools which I know have a good rep around the community. So that's usually a good sign. Either that, or I go directly to an artist that I really admire. And then I go to Gumroad and they're like specific things. For example, you can use like Mentor Coalition that Josh Lane started as a good example, that you can go like directly to the artist and then they can be your mentor for a while. The first step is actually your research, just seeing whether or not the community is kind of supporting that whole effort. And if they are, then it's a good sign that you'll be well off enrolling in that class. It's not easy like knowing if something is bad or not, because I think that knowing really if something was good or bad, you need to go through it to be like kind of really know whether or not you got something out of it or not. So here's my thing. I think that like elementary stuff, like actually like learning a new tool, like learning a new software, I really think that kind of knowledge and information you can get for free on YouTube on every corner. Personally, I would never like pay a introductory course for anything, because I would rather kind of learn that thing on my own with the free information that I get. I honestly believe that everybody is more than capable. But for very kind of specific high-level stuff, I will gladly pay money for somebody to talk to and teach me and stuff.
I want to ask about college. I know you studied at the Faculty of Digital Arts and Electrical Engineering. Many of us are wondering whether it's worth investing thousands of dollars toward higher ed. What is your advice on that subject, and kind of what was your biggest takeaway from your college experience?
I'm in a bit like very unique position here, because education in Serbia is free. I'm not like, we don't have student loans on a level that I would say like Americans do. So even if you enroll university, if you do okay on the NETRI exam, every university enrolls a certain amount of students that are paid by a country budget.
So how can I become a Serbian citizen?
Just come here. I think that we are giving passports these days like left and right. Shouldn't be a problem. So that's for national university. There are a bunch of privately owned universities as well that have like recently started like growing in popularity in Serbia, and those are like 99% of the time paid on. But it's again like the amount of money that you need to pay for universities here is not like tens of hundreds of thousands of dollars per year. It's more around like, I don't know, in average, maybe 1,000 or 2,000 euros for a school year. So it's easily manageable. Money is a bit of like a different position when you're here in Serbia. So I was never kind of pressured by that. When I enrolled in electrical engineering, I was on the budget. I did like really good actually. At the entry exam, I was very kind of highly ranked, and I didn't pay any money to go to that university. And it brought me actually a lot of good information, because I was studying like software development as well at that university, and that kind of that knowledge really helps me a lot today, both like as being a bit more analytical when I think about things, when I approach work, and also all that kind of tech savvy things that help me today like in work, because whenever you're working with art in game space, you need to be at least on some level technical artist as well. That kind of side, the like technical side of the brain that I got from electrical engineering helps me like in everyday work even today. And then I went to the interactive media university to kind of fulfill my life dream.
You really did get to utilize both sides of your brain, artistic and the engineer. That's super cool to hear.
Yeah, it is.
All right, Johnny, are you ready to jump into the lightning round questions?
I am ready.
Quick and easy, just like visual effects.
Yes. Are you going to give me like 4 days per question or a month per question?
What is a perfect one-day getaway in Belgrade and the surrounding area?
One-day getaway. Well, if you are kind of chill kind of guy, you can go to Ada, which is like a actual lake in the middle of a town. It's very unique for cities, because Belgrade is a very unique position. It's placed between two rivers, so you're just like 5 minutes drive away from a very crowded downtown to a very chilled, like watery, relaxed area. And then if you're a party animal, you can also go to that same rivers to some like on-water clubs, which are really, really kind of Europe level famous. at one point.
What video game or app are you using on your phone that is the most fun?
I just yesterday installed a new one, which I'm quite enjoying so far, both for my personal satisfaction and as a kind of cool father. It's a new application. There's this blog called Wait But Why, and there's also this YouTube channel called In a Nutshell. They're kind of both are very educational, like science educational, and they built this app called I think it's called Universe or something like that. And then it's the app that kind of shows you like the difference in scale of the universe. So you can like zoom in from actual like an atom or like building blocks of an atom all the way to like galaxies and nebulas and whatnot. And while you're zooming, you gotta get this whole sensation of how crazy the scale is in this reality, and you can get like information on every single thing along that scale journey. It's quite a cool app. I really love it.
What is your favorite thing to cook or eat?
I'm a big sushi guy. Also, like I like to eat sushi, and I've recently actually started like making homemade sushi. That's quite an enjoyable experience.
Get that sticky rice and get your hands all.
Yeah. It's like so cool. I really love it, and it's also like a great social thing. Making sushi with all your friends, because it takes time to prepare everything, and then everybody enjoys the meal. It's quite awesome, and it can easily be done. Like it's not that messy. You don't need like this big apparatus to prepare it. It doesn't have to like be in the oven for 4 hours for it to bake. You can do it fast. Like the rice cooks fast. You use raw fish, and it's both like social and tasty.
What is your favorite book or podcast you've listened to recently?
I'm gonna plug this book a little bit. So a few colleagues of mine just wrote an amazing book about design thinking. It's a great book. It's a completely new way of how you approach products, but it can transfer to whatever you do in life. That's my favorite book. And podcasts, I have to admit that I'm not that big on podcasts. And I cannot really answer you why. To be honest, I don't think that I gave them a fair chance. When I usually want to like listen to something, I usually opt out for music, because music helps me most get into a kind of flow state than podcast does. That's maybe one of the reasons, because whenever I listen to like podcasts or at least like a kind of tutorial in the background, I kind of tend to really focus on what people are saying. I really kind of want to kind of get into really understand what people are saying. But when I'm listening to music, I don't do that. And that kind of helps me maybe focus a bit more.
On that then, is there a specific song or playlist or band that you like putting you into the flow?
Oh, like man, I go these crazy like rabbit holes whenever I try to find music on YouTube. It's like I really kind of try to be really open-minded about music. So just recently, I went this completely rabbit hole with some like crazy Jamaican music. That was like my last week music feed. It's like, I don't know. I to some like bands I have like never even heard of, and to some like very obscure music styles where everybody's like just, I don't know, it's like rapping or I have no idea what it is, but it was pleasant at the moment.
Favorite video game visual effect you're jealous of that isn't your own?
I think it's the waving chest hair of Nathan Drake in the Naughty Dog. Oh, my mind stopped. I forgot the name of the game.
Uncharted?
Yes. Thank you. Nathan Drake has actually his chest hair are waving in the wind. I'm not jealous because like it's the best effects ever. I'm jealous because that's the most coolest, like unnecessary but coolest.
Really sells the wind.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Best advice for a first-time visual effects artist or people looking to get into the industry?
Don't give up, show your work, and kill your babies.
Good. What question do you never get asked that you wish you were asked more often?
Oh, that's a very good thing. I don't know. Maybe this question. I'm going to go meta on this. I tend to believe that I can help a lot with game design. And like, for some reason, nobody comes around catching me about game design. I always get art questions, but I never get game design and like actual, maybe higher level game questions, which I would really like to contribute.
Awesome. Johnny, man, it has been an absolute pleasure to be able to sit down and chat with you today. I want to ask, is there anything you want to plug, anything you want to promote, get the word out?
I don't know, man. I started being very heavily active on Twitter a couple of years back. And that's kind of it started to kind of become my, I would say social network of choice. So I really like meeting and chatting with like-minded people. If you agree, or especially if you disagree with anything that I've said today, I would really like to discuss. So hit me up on Twitter and let's chat. I would really like to learn from people and teach people whatever I can.
That's great. Thanks, Johnny, for coming on today.
My pleasure, man. Thanks for having me.
Thanks again, everybody, for listening to this awesome interview with Johnny. Like he said, he's on Twitter, so definitely connect with him, bounce ideas, get advice, share your work. He wants to connect with you. Wow. Can you believe it? We're already hitting November and December, which is the holiday season. So I want you all to spend time with your family and loved ones and really just cherish this time we have together. I love you all so much, and rock on.